Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Visual Studio Toolbox, part of our ongoing mini-series all about getting started with .NET MAUI and XAML. I'm your host, Leslie Richardson.
I'm your co-host, Robert Green.
And I'm your friendly presenter, Paul Sheriff.
Awesome. And in the last episode, we talked about how to further make your app more aesthetically pleasing with the addition of styles and all the different things you can do with that, and how to organize your code a little bit with them. And this next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about navigating between pages, because chances are your app is not going to be a one-page thing, right?
Most likely it's not. So, and this is really neat about .NET MAUI that I like, is they actually made a built-in navigation system. And WPF, we didn't have one. Silverlight, we didn't have one. So it's really nice to see that they gave us something that works right out of the box. So, all right, well, let's dive into doing this. So we're going to stop the application because I need to be able to add some new pages now. So I'm going to go ahead and right mouse click on the project. I'm going to add a new folder. Now, this is my convention that I use. I like to put all of my pages under a folder called views, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new item. And when you do this, it may come up with the compact view, so it might come up like this, but you need to make sure you show all templates, because you want to go to the .NET MAUI tab here, and then you want to choose the .NET MAUI content page, and make sure you choose the one called XAML. Don't choose the C# one. That assumes that you're going to write all C# to create your UI, and that's not what we're going to do in this class. You can do it if you want, but we're not going to do it here. So I'm going to name this user detail view.xaml, and we'll add this within this views folder. So if we take a look at this, break this out a little bit, so you can see that it's referencing the class adventureworks.maui.views, right? Since I put this under the views folder, it uses that as a namespace. And then it's referencing the class user detail views. So it's this guy here. This is marked as a public partial class because obviously they're going to take the XAML and the C# and they're going to put it all together in one class when it compiles. So all I need to do here is just change a few things. I'm going to change the title. I'll call it user information. I'm going to remove the default vertical stack layout they give us there, and I'm going to grab everything that we've done up to this point within that main page. I'm going to cut it out of here. I'm going to go back over to the XAML here, and I'll paste it into here. So now I've got the grid with our whole user detail page that we've been creating now in the user detail view.xaml. Then I'll go back to the main page. I'm going to put it back to kind of what we had at the beginning where I created that label. But notice I am using that static resource, that application title, that string resource that we had created. Okay. All right. So now I have, let's close everything here, save everything. So if I look at the Solution Explorer, I now have my main page here in the root. Okay. And if we look at this, you'll see that the class for this one is just simply adventureworks.maui, and then it's just main page. So this is the namespace here. But on this one, the namespace now adds on this views. Why am I talking about namespaces? Well, I'm glad you asked. So app shell, this is where we can set up these shell contents and give us a way to navigate from one page to another. So if I want to navigate to a page, see how it navigates to this local main page. See that? Mm-hmm. Okay. The way this works is it creates an XML namespace. Now, an XML namespace is simply just like it is in .NET. It's a way to avoid name collisions. So what I'm doing is I'm giving it an alias. I'm saying this XML namespace alias is called local. This is built into the template. Microsoft does this for you. And so we named our application adventureworks.maui, so it puts this one in. I need to access not only the .NET MAUI one for the main page, but I also need the one under views, don't I? So I need to add a new XML namespace. I'm going to do XML namespace, I'll call it views. And then I'm going to type in Adventure Works. And look at that. I get nice IntelliSense. And I just simply go down until I find the adventureworks.maui.views. Easy. So now that I have that, I can now add some more of these shell contents. Well, here again, the shell only allows you to have a single content. So in order to have more than one, I simply need to create a tab bar. And this tab bar can now have more than one shell contents. I'll add another one here, and I will call it users. So that's the title. That's what's going to show up on the home page that we'll see in a minute. And then it says, what is the route to get here? What is the actual page name? Well, the content template is a data template. It's under the views. And now you can see if the IntelliSense, look at right here, user detail view. So if I just hit tab, it just went ahead and filled everything in for me. And then we have this last attribute here called route. Route needs to be unique. So I usually take the page and I put it into that like so. And now we can go ahead and run this. So when you're adding things, when you're changing the shell, or if you're changing some of those global styles in app.xaml, these are instances where you do need to stop the application from running and then restart it. But now, look at that. Now we have a home. So that was this first shell content. It didn't show up before because it only shows up once you put things into a tab bar. Okay, it was just used as routing, basically, in the background. Mm-hmm. Now we have users.
What's the difference between the content template where you specify the page and the route where you specify the page?
Okay, good question. So the content template is meant to be a bound item. Okay, remember when I said that anything within the curly braces, you kind of think of that like code? Okay, so what it's doing is this allows us, or it allows Maui to say, well, okay, I'm going to be expecting a real, think of it like type of. That's a great way to think of this. Type of. What? Type of views.user detail view. Okay, it gives us the actual type. What shell content is doing underneath the hood is it's building a table of routes. So it has a string portion, and the next think of it like a key value pair. Okay, the key portion is the route. The next section is the type of, so it can actually instantiate it and then put it on the screen for you. Does that help?
Sure.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, obviously you could actually have two different routes as long as they're different names here, right? They're unique. That could still point to the same thing here. This is the only one that has to be unique. You could have the same, page gotten to a couple of different ways. But when you're in a tab bar and you have different shell contents, it's building this table underneath the hood with the route name, obviously the title, and then the type of, so it knows what is the type. It uses reflection to actually create an instance of that particular screen and then display it within the application shell like it did here. So when I go home, it goes to the main page. When I click on users, it goes now to the user detail and it creates an instance of it and pops it up on the screen. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's add a few more pages. Now I'm not going to go through and build each one. I would do the same thing. I would right mouse click, I'd add a new item. I'd go to the .NET content page. I'd specify like login or whatever. But instead of me doing all that, I think everybody gets the idea. I'm going to go ahead and just bring in some that I've already created just to save a little bit of time. So all I've done on each one of these, I have a login view. I change the title and I put a label. A title and a label. And we'll start building some of these out throughout the life of this application, but I want to just have enough in here that we can add a few more things, right? So now all we have to do is go back to our app shell and we can add more shell content. So for instance, I would add one for products. So I've got a product detail view right here. So again, if I go here, product, start typing, there it is, easy. And I would take that and I put that into the route just to make sure they're all unique. And then maybe I add one more here, and that would be for customers, because I've got a customer detail view. So now I have, what, 4 different elements now, 4 different tab items that can direct me and navigate to different pages. So we'll bring this up again. Yeah. There we go. So we got users, we have products, we have customers. Okay. All right, let's move on. There's some other things that we can do here. So what if I wanted maybe some drop-down menus, for instance, okay? We do that with a tab. So remember, I'm in a tab bar, so I can add an additional tab. Title is maintenance, and then I put additional shell contents underneath those. So I've added the colors list view and the phone types list view. And then after that, I added just a single menu item again, which is the login. So now we're going to get this drop down. See that there? Okay. Now let's do this, because what would this look like, right, on an Android? If we were to run this on the phone, what does this look like? So let's go ahead and deploy this out to the Android, and we'll take a look. Now this is going to take a few minutes to kind of come up. It's going to bring up our last screenshot. It takes a shot of what we were when we closed it last time. But now what it's doing in the background is it's actually compiling in this emulator for Android, and it's going to then deploy the app up here. So we'll come back in just a minute or two after this is deployed, and we'll take a look at it here on the Android emulator. Okay, so there we go. We can see that it now came up. So now, if we take a look down here, our menu is now here at the bottom. So when it switches to these phones, you never know, well, you'll know, but you don't know where it's going to pop up on these different platforms. So now you can see we got the user screen here, we got our product screen, our customer screen, and then it can't fit everything on there, so now it does more. Now, you remember maintenance was a drop-down menu on Windows, but it's not here. When I click on maintenance here, look what happens. We get a sub-menu up here at the top. So that's how it does a tab item, right, inside of a phone. So I thought it was just kind of something useful to look at, that, we kind of want to see what that looks like. Pretty neat.
Yeah, I like it. It's very sleek.
Cool. All right. Unfortunately, we have to stop again because we're going to actually now write a little bit of code. So what we're going to do is we're going to add yet one more view. So let's go ahead and create another content page. We'll add this. Okay, we're going to set the title to user list. Replace that vertical stack layout. Take away theirs and use my own here. And now you'll notice that I've got a button that says navigate to detail. And I have a clicked event that needs to fire. So I need to actually create that. So if you just put your cursor there and you hit F12, if you're using the default keyboard, it will create the clicked event for you with the appropriate parameters coming in there. And then what I need to do is I need to navigate to somewhere. I'm going to navigate to the name of, I'm going to go to asynchronously, name of views.user detail view. So I want to navigate from the user list view to the detail view. Now you'll notice that I'm doing this asynchronously. So that means I need to add the async keyword on this event procedure definition. Now I can do shell, remember our shell, app shell, .current, go to asynchronously this user detail view. So let's go back to the app shell and let's change where I was calling the user, detail view. I want to use the user list view now. So we will change this. But now, what's the problem? What problem have I introduced here? Can anybody think of this? Remember I said all of these are kind of built into a table. But I want to navigate, right, to user detail view. how do I get this into that table when it's not a shell content? Okay, well, we do this in the app shell C#. Right after we initialize the component, we now can register routes. So I do a routing.register route, and then I use the name of the user detail view and the type of user detail view. And if you think about it, those shell contents that we're building here, these guys here, they break down basically into this code. Okay. And Robert did mention something off camera. He did say, which is kind of interesting that, well, I've never used the route. Do you need to use it? And it's like, no, you don't. Because
you registered the routes, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
We basically just saw the code that it's using to do that, and it's using the name of, which gives us what? A string. So there you go. Pretty easy. So now that we've registered the route, we changed our shell to now go to the list view. And then on the list view XAML, we're clicking on that button that says navigate to detail. And then we say go to asynchronously this other guy here, right? Let's just go back to the Windows machine because it won't take as long to come up. And we'll run this guy and we'll see how we can actually perform navigation. So we've already been doing navigation through the menus, but now we're doing it through some C# code. And you're going to have to do this. You are going to probably write code to navigate from one screen to another using code behind. So let's go here to users. We'll click on our button and, oh, what did I do, Robert? You had me set the width of all buttons. 100.
Yeah.
That says navigate to detail. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And there we go. So we did our navigation. And then look what happens. On the title bar up here, it gives us a back button. Isn't that nice? So they do that automatically. So instead of having to come back and click back here on this guy, which you can't because it says, well, I'm part of the same navigation. I need to pop that thing off the stack. We use the back button. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I need to fix that one thing there. So I'll go back into, what is it, the resources, app styles, and I'm going to locate that button, and I'm going to remove that just so we don't have that limiting factor there, and then we'll be able to see the whole button. So, and now we go users, and there's our navigate to detail. Wonderful. And there we go. So navigation, pretty darn simple, all built in to, basically just, it's an integral part of .NET MAUI now, which is wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah, really great to see. Shoot. Yeah,
We can make it easy.
Yep. I do. Yeah, I know in the past with just basic web apps, sometimes it's so hard to figure out like what routes where and things like that. So yeah, whatever streamlining we can do all up when creating any kind of application is great for something as simple as just, I just want to churn the page, dang it. So yeah, great. So what's up next?
Well, we're going to talk about creating some reusable UI so we can use, on all those pages, maybe we want to put a header on each one of those pages, for instance, or address control. Yeah, so we're going to do some really cool reusable stuff.
Right.
Great. Well, I'm excited. So stay tuned for that, y'all. And until then, happy coding.